On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the Avs with a flurry of goals in the third period gives them a 5-1 win over the New Jersey Devils, and the pendulum has swung back towards, see, this is what they can do. So let's talk about that. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. If you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and share it on this very podcast. We'll get to our subtext people a little bit later, where they chime in on this 5-1 win by the Avalanche over the New Jersey Devils. It's how you want to, it's everything, Kyle. It's how you want to start a homestand. It's how you want to bounce back after a poor weekend and your first two games after the Four Nations break. It was like 5-1 is maybe a little bit misleading, because it was a very tight game. And but I go back to, you know, when you feel good about how a game is going, right? Like the Avalanche were playing a very good game throughout, but the Devils kept it close, and then you just get like a run of goals late in the third that make it 5-1. So it's weird. Like, it wasn't a 5-1 game, but it kind of felt like it was when it was like 2-1 and 3. You know what I mean? So I liked how the Avalanche played this game.
Yeah, and this goes back to, like you mentioned in the intro, like, this is what we expect the Avalanche to do. And of course it's not hard when you have like Cale Makar registering 2 points, Nathan MacKinnon has 3, Nichushkin has 3. You have Mackenzie Blackwood looking great. Defense looked okay. Yeah. And you were the physical team out there. New Jersey prides itself on being physical. And like, the Avs were getting in there. They were pushing people off the puck. They were playing it right. The power play, effective, interesting. Yes. And this is one of those that we talked and bemoaned the effort in that back-to-back Nashville-St. Louis series. And I feel like this was also part of locker room internal monologue. Like, guys, we could do better. That was pretty bad. I know we like to blame the depth, but hey, everybody has to chip in, and you get to see that. Like, you even get to see LOC, and he got to score a goal. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you want to see, and why we sounded so negative on the Avs because of that weekend. But I mean, when you play like this, games get easier, and working your way up the standings get easier. It's that simple.
It just goes back to like I've committed myself to not knowing what Avalanche team is going to come out, and when it's this team, it's enjoyable to watch that. And you know, they had energy in the first. I don't know if that was just because Val Nichushkin was back, or it maybe it was, again, a combination of everything. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was, this is, you know, we're finally back at home. It was the bad weekend. I'm sure it was a combination of so many things, but you can tell a lot from the Avs by their starts. And I thought this start was great. They were getting just shots on net just over and over and over again. And you could tell that was the game plan. And for an Avs team that, you know, they've struggled to score goals, at least coming back from the Four Nations break. It was like there were so many moments, especially in the second period, where pucks were like trickling behind the goaltender and just hitting the post and going wide. And it's like, man, when it rains, it pours, and not being able to score a goal. So it was nice to maybe like open the floodgates up a little bit in the third and hang 5 up on the scoreboard. But there was a moment, even though you're playing well, it's one of those things where it's like, when you're rolling, those go in. When things are going well, those shots go in. Just seems to be a weird thing in sports. When things are going your way, everything goes your way. And for as far as goals go, recently for the Avs, they haven't been. And I was just like, man, like, is this going to be one of those games? You're playing well. It's almost like a replay of the game against the Predators.
Yeah,
you're playing well, but you just couldn't get anything on net. But I loved the energy. I loved what they were bringing in, just firing shots on net. Just keep doing that, and the dam's got to break at some point. And it was late in the third when it finally did.
Yeah, and it's funny because they even had the 5-on-3 early in the game, and Val took it on himself to make up for his absence by shooting every time he touched the puck.
Hey, why not?
Sure, why not? That energy of it felt like they took that weekend personal, that St. Louis Nashville, like they wanted to, and like even Altitude starting the broadcast saying like this team only scored 2 goals in those 2 games, like talking about just this isn't the MO for this Avalanche team. And in that second period, I was kind of leaning back in my chair, just kind of laughing, like, are the Avs really going to get out goalied by Jake Allen?
Yeah.
And it finally took them, honestly, when the puck luck and the energy broke in that third, it was that baseball style goal from Nathan MacKinnon that you really are like, okay, there's the puck luck. And you felt the weight just kind of like snap, the bubble that was hanging around this team since the tournament. And maybe they can start building off of it here, because I started seeing smiles again, because I'm a big eye test guy. Like you could see the body language, like everybody was chiming in, and from Mitts to LOC, like this is what you wanted this whole time. And everybody decided, okay, we're going to feel better about playing hockey at once.
Yeah, you mentioned the 5-on-3, and that was in the first period, and they don't get anything on the 5-on-3. Did they once the 5-on-3 ended? Is that where did they get one at when it was? I don't think they did. They didn't get anything on that on either one of those, the 5-on-3 or the regular 5-on-4. I don't think, did they?
Yeah, it was a short 5-on-3, maybe about 45 seconds to 50 seconds on that first one.
Honestly, man, like that's not short.
Well, true.
You know, a 5-on-3, anything over like 20 seconds of a 5-on-3 should feel like almost like a full 2 minutes. So I don't know what it is with the Avs. It's not that they didn't have good chances, but I'm trying to remember the last time the Avs scored a 5-on-3. I'm not trying to come down on this team right now, but it's just like with the talent this team has, you should be getting, when you get those 5-on-3s, that should be a slam dunk. And you didn't, but whatever. You did go.
It's because you get to pass more on 5-on-3s. There's less people to get in the way, so they get to pass until they get their fill.
They did go 2 for 4. Yes, 2 for 4 on the power play. Held the Devils 0 for 2. And they showed the graphic during the game. The Devils are one of those teams that are top 3 for both, I believe, power play and penalty kill. So you got them on both sides of that. You know, they have a very good penalty kill. You went 50% on them. They have a very good power play. You shut them out into 0%. So that was like everything about this game is just where you're like, man, like this is what you want to find early in the season and hit your stride. This is what you want. This is what like Winnipeg is doing. Winnipeg they've been hot since the beginning of the season, but most teams get off to a rocky start, win, lose, and then once the good teams find it, they usually just ride that for the duration of the season. It's been a grind for the Avalanche game in and game out, and we've seen them play this game many times this year. We've seen them play a game like they did against the Blues many times this year. So no, I'm not going to go to, we're going to roll all 6 of these home games because the next one is Minnesota. That is a huge, huge game. And I think you matched up well with the Devils. And Devils are a good team, but as this game was going on and you saw like this is the Avalanche team that we know can play, you just felt good. Blackwood was great in goal, so him making really good saves, and it was just like for the Devils to win this game, they're going to have to really capitalize on a really bad Avalanche mistake, but I don't think the Avalanche are going to make that mistake today. They really didn't. I thought they played a solid game. in all three zones in offense, defense, and special teams, goalie. It was just an all around solid game that, again, this team can play.
And like the view from the other side, like this wasn't just a fluky Avalanche win. Like the Avalanche took the Devils out of the game. They made it frustrating for them to do what they do. I've seen a ton of Devils games this year, and this was not a typical Devils output. And you could see that frustration that they could not really like it. Their skating was just not there. Their ability to set up the plays. You took the Hughes brothers really out of it. And you could see that frustration mounting, especially late in the game. And Mackenzie Blackwood taking out Jack really just started mounting the frustrations, and the Avalanche kind of countered it. It wasn't just the Avs kept doing the same thing and finally capitalizing. They were strategic in how they did it. And this is another one of those series that I would love to see go 7 in a Stanley Cup type format. But this was a really good cerebral win for the Avalanche as well.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing, and then we'll get a break in and talk about Val Nichushkin. I always look at like third period shots on goal, and when you're in the lead and the other team needs to really force the issue in the third, what did you give up to them? And the Avs only gave up 6. You have 6 shots on goal, and you were the team in front. So. Yeah, I think this was, like I said, overall a solid game. All right. So the big news on this day was obviously Val Nichushkin returned. How did he do? We'll talk about that next. All right. First, we are going to hear from Trade Coffee. If you're like me, and if you're like Kyle, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee. If you get tired of settling for grocery store brands that just aren't cutting it, turn to Trade. Tell you why. Coffee is next level. It's like Nathan MacKinnon, next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters, and their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. And we got to test a free cup of coffee from Trade. We got to test any one on their site. I kept it in the state of Colorado and went with Huckleberry Roasters. The coffee flavor that I got is called Flores Bellas, I believe is how it is pronounced.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, but don't think floral at all, because this is the tasting notes for this one, Kyle. Milk chocolate, graham cracker, and almond butter. Yo, I am not kidding you when I tell you it's probably my new favorite coffee. And if my wife was awake right now, she could come on this episode and tell you that is the truth. I am drinking it every single morning, and I will be ordering more of it. It is absolutely delicious.
I'll be over in a minute.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So right now, Trade is offering an exclusive offer to our listeners. You get 40% off of your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. That's drinktrade, trade.com/lockedonnhl for $40 off of your first order. Head over there right now. You will not be disappointed. All right. So on the last episode, we were talking after that St. Louis loss. I was mentioning like this team needs someone like Val Nichushkin to return. I don't know if it was in your frustration or it was the bad weekend. You were like, I don't want to hear any more of the I'm waiting for insert player name here to return. I was of the mind of like, well, Val is a different player, and he gives the Avalanche something that they are clearly missing right now. It's one game back, but it was, there was no training wheels for him in this game, and Jared Bednar said so. I think he played almost 18 minutes in this game. Let me see, 17:46. And you said like, yeah, he was firing at will. 5 shots on goal, which was only second to Nathan MacKinnon. But you saw what he brings to this team, and it's a big deal. Do you still feel that way, or do you want to walk back a little bit just because you're maybe annoyed
No,
about how they were playing?
I wasn't. I'm not going to walk it back because it's the thing with Avs fans. Like Ross Colton could go out tomorrow, and while whoever's injured, we magically put this hype around, and we're just like, oh, just wait until Ross Colton comes back. Or
Yeah,
it's I'm tired of the narrative, and it was more. It wasn't a slight to Val Nichushkin. It was more of a dig at Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon. Like in those 2 games, you wanted to see more. And that's honestly what that was really geared toward. Because I Val Nichushkin, yes, he is the heart and soul of this team, and when he's out there, he's a game changer. He's next level. Um, that narrative had nothing to do with Val as a player,
right.
and you could watch him in these games, and when you could see the record when he's a part of this team, and when he blends with Natchez and with Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, when everybody's firing on all cylinders, this team is completely different. I absolutely agree. And I think the team felt that, like, they could take that little sigh of relief, like, good, he's back and he's doing his thing.
And he jumped right in. They're sure, you just need. It's crazy, like when guys miss a certain amount of time, like you kind of not lose track of how long they've been out, but lose track of how many games he's actually missed. He missed 21 games. It seems like he was just hurt for like a few weeks, and that's with a 2-week break where there were no games. It's 21 games. Just crazy to kind of wrap your head around that. But
I wonder if he was looking for Miko.
I don't know. I think Miko's looking for Miko right now.
Sure.
But I thought, like, again, what he does was right at the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Like his forechecking just did not miss a beat. He was right on he's so big. His zone exits, or zone entries, I should say, are just different than MacKinnon. MacKinnon is just like, I am just going to go full bore, try to stop me. Sometimes people do. Same with Marty Natchez. But Val he's very like collected, and he just shields the puck. And he's like, you're just going to have to be stronger than me to poke it away from me. Good luck. Good luck doing that. And it's like they missed that. They missed the forecheck. They missed the body in front. And he had some really good looks. And, they had to make some really good, tight saves on him. I was thinking, I'm like, there is no way he's not scoring in this game, because he's taken good look shots, open shots, high danger shots. It didn't happen, but yeah, I mean, and you're right about when no matter anybody's missing, it's same, and the same goes for like, your prospects too. Like we have the best prospects, and like can't wait till this guy gets here next year. It is true. There is some truth to that, but it's a different animal with someone like Val Nichushkin in my eyes, because he just brings something that he's really the only guy. Maybe Lekkonen is maybe second to him in like the forechecking aspect, but he just brings so much dynamic aspects to this team that when it's not there, it's glaring. So I am happy he's back. But I always get weary on after like someone missed that amount of time and then they play the first game. How are they feeling?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's fine, but it's just a little hang up that I have. I'm just waiting for something bad to happen tomorrow morning.
And I'm curious, we kind of like brushed over it earlier, but those long changes, I'm curious how Natchez adapts to Nichushkin out there as well, because who would have thought there's somebody on this team who wants to shoot more than Marty Natchez, and his name is Val Nichushkin. Like as soon as he touches the puck, he's firing it. So like figuring out that new dynamic now that there's another power in the Justice League, that's going to be fun to see, but I'm liking where this is going, and this is definitely something they could build off of.
And I think, I wonder how much they're going to play with each other at 5-on-5. Because Natchez is on the top line. Val has played up there from time to time, but I don't who you moving down. I mean, you could move Lekkonen down to the second line, I guess, if you wanted to just try things out. But they will work together on the power play. That's definitely where they will.
That's what I was about, and that could be a difference maker. Like you already saw the result, 2 for 4 on the power play. Like that's unheard of with current Colorado Avalanche power plays. experiment with it and really refine that power play, we could see a different page on this story that's been up and down all year long.
I mean, he played 22 shifts, which was the only one who played more than him on shifts was Jonathan Drouin, believe it or not, had 23 on the forward side. Defense always has more, but he even had one more shift than Nathan MacKinnon on the day.
One more shift than games missed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So as far as stats go, I mean, it's man, you're. Let me see here. The only we're talking about him. The only ones that did not score on the forwards were Kiviranta, Drury, and Nichushkin. So everybody else had something. Parker Kelly an assist, Colton an assist, Logan O'Connor a goal, Drouin and Wood both an assist, Nathan MacKinnon 2 goals and assists, Middlestat with a goal and a really nice goal at that, like a backhand from a little bit of distance, and those are always tough to control. But he had a really nice rebound for a goal. Lehkonen with a goal, Nashis with 3 assists. I mean, when we're sitting here talking about, hey, Avs got to address the depth, sure, they still do, but this makes you feel good. Like, again, they can do it. They can do it. That's a solid game from your forwards.
And this goes back to the conversation we were having. Like, when you ask, what do the Avalanche need at the trade deadline? Now, how do you answer the question?
I think because of the whole just inconsistency of it all, you still have to address it. Like, because you can just go back and forth with this all day long.
Yeah,
you can sit there today and be like, oh, we don't need to do anything. And then you can go out against Minnesota, lay an egg, and be like, no, we do have to address something. So I think they have enough information to be like, it needs to get addressed. Where it gets addressed, we'll see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mitt's scoring didn't make it easier.
Yeah.
Burakovsky 2.0.
I know. So I thought Drouin had a really good game. I thought top to bottom, you guys had a good game. So, all right, we got subtext people to get to. We have our sound check to get to. We'll do all of that right after this. Let's hear from FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. We're pretty close to March here, sir, which means we're talking about the NBA, but March Madness. And your Auburn Tigers are looking mighty. I picked them last year in solidarity to you. I picked them last year. I think I'm going to be forced to do it again this year.
I mean, they just look too good this year.
Dude, I mean, I've only watched the one game against Alabama, and that was a really good game. But I'm going to take your word for this, sir.
They won by 30 tonight.
Did they? Oh, God. Okay. We'll be talking more about that later, I am sure. But right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. It's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, sir. Nathan MacKinnon, he with the 3-point night, he gets to 90. So he's the first one on 90. Do you feel like the Hart Trophy is like, I know people put a lot of weight on, overall points. And last year he bucked that trend. He did not lead the league in points, and he won the MVP. I don't know how much weight I'm going to put on it. I think for me, it's another one of those things where last year it was the Hart Trophy that he never had, and now he's got it. This year he's never had a scoring title, and that's kind of what I want him to get this year. If he doesn't get a Hart, I won't be upset because he finally got one. But the next thing for him is get a scoring title, personally.
I think, that Hart still might be there depending on what the end goal of this story is. We talk about the up and down nature of this Colorado Avalanche and Nathan MacKinnon really being the only real consistent part of it, and like registering 90 points now, I mean, he could still, at the end of it, if they push themselves out of the wild card and actually become a threat going into the playoffs, you could say, hey, Nathan MacKinnon, defending Hart champion, like, willed this team back to the playoffs. Look at how all the changes they had to make on this team. He should get some more consideration. And by then, with everybody coming back healthy, his points are going to be through the roof. I mean, don't rule him out yet.
Oh, he's going to be in the final 3 for sure for the Hart. So I just feel like if there's a love affair with Draisaitl for this year for some reason.
They got to win something.
Yeah. Well, if it's a President's Trophy or something like that, maybe that's what because the vote's got to be in before the playoffs even start. So you can't go on anything that they do in the playoffs. So we'll see.
The President's Trophy, we could go ahead and lock that in now.
Yeah, I know. So, all right, let's get to some subtext, people. We have our sound check coming up as well. So again, if you want to have your comments read and chat with Kyle and I individually, sign up for the subtext. Cody says, quote, that escalated quickly. The Devils halfway through the third period, probably. But yet again, Nichushkin proves his importance to the team. Let's just hope he stays on the ice this time. Only criticism is I still think they overpass at times, and scoring on that 5-on-3 would have been nice. Yeah, man, I can't disagree with that. When you have a 5-on-3, it's just probably like inherited of finding that perfect shot because you have such an advantage. And maybe sometimes you do overpass because even though I would normally take this shot, we can probably make a couple more passes and get an even more perfect shot. And I don't think the Avalanche are in position to do that. When you have that much time, it was almost a full minute, I think, like you said. Throw it on net because even if it's, there's a rebound there, you have way more than they do to get a rebound. So I agree with him.
And Nathan was early in the game was very guilty of that to the point where I was just like, please be unselfish for once.
Yeah. Electrician Ziggy said, no thoughts, just giving you a sound check. Nothing but a good time from Poison.
Good song. Man. Great pick. Great pick.
Are they still touring? Do they still do the tour thing?
I think Brett's doing his own solo thing. I think he's got a cruise. I bet.
Does he? Oh God, he's got one of those things.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that cruise. Good Lord. Okay. Ethan says, didn't look at the final point share, but I feel like every single forward had a point. We just read it off. Pretty close, Ethan. Almost. Pretty close. Except Val. Yes, Val and 2 others. But he almost seemed to have the biggest impact. This needs to be repeated consistently. Yep. He's right. As much as an impact, you saw Val all over the place, and he was one of the guys that didn't have a point. So,
hey, the heart matters.
Yeah.
After 2 lifeless efforts, Val is definitely noticeable.
Landon said Nisha's played amazing. MacKinnon was in the right spots, right time. Blackwood was a wall. Great defensive game. And yeah, so he's kind of just throwing bullet points out there. But
956 average against Blackwood's former team. So
yeah. And that hit me like halfway through the game. I'm like, oh yeah, he played for these guys. Like
I look at his jersey every episode.
Yeah. And finally, Vargar says, I really like Drury's game. He's definitely what you want in bottom 6. Yeah, we talked about that not that long ago. How totally agree with that, Vargar. I think the Nation taking him in the deal was kind of I don't say the highlight. The highlight was Mikko leaving, but what you got back. But Drury is just as important.
I wouldn't be opposed to them building something around Drury at the trade deadline. Like making him a priority on a line and building pieces around him.
Okay. I mean, what was his? The Avs won the faceoff dot, by the way, in this game.
That doesn't. 2 for 4 on the power play. We won faceoffs.
Drury was almost 70% faceoffs.
Nico Sturm 2.0.
Yeah. There you go. So. All right, that's people from subtext chiming in. One more thing that we got to do, and that is our sound check, where Kyle and I each pick a song that summarizes the most recent game. put these songs up on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow along. Just search for LOA Soundcheck. These songs are on volume number 4. What do you got for this one? 5-1 Avs over the Devils.
Well, I can't be mean to the Devils in my song choice.
That's true.
So I went with one of my. I used to like this band about 2008, 2009. Volbeat.
Oh, God.
The Devil's Bleeding Crown.
That's a great song title.
It's a good song. It's
Is it?
Volbeat. I can tell
Volbeat?
you it's a Volbeat song, and you know exactly how it sounds.
Yeah.
But they're good.
They're a funny band. Like, I think they're a really good band.
Yeah.
I went to see them. They were the opening band for Slipknot, believe it or not.
Oh,
It was a very odd bill, but and they held their own. They were good.
like they described their influence as Elvis and AC/DC and Johnny Cash, and I'm like, okay,
Wow.
go for it.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah, that's what they
That
say
is
their
actually
music
perfect.
is.
All right. So what's that song title? The Devil what?
The Devil's Bleeding Crown.
Okay. I went the Devil route as well. But I went with Ghost. We know, Ghost is very, the whole satanic stuff with them. But I went with Ghost because of the devil part of it. But the song I went with is called Faith.
Oh,
Because the Avs do this to me this year,
yeah.
Kyle. They play a game like this and they give me a bunch of faith. But we will see. I think, the next game, that is a big, big game coming up against the Wild. But at least you played the way you played this game. It does. I know I said, I'm going to live game by game with this team, but that doesn't mean they don't instill some faith in me when they do play like this. So that's what I'm going with. Ghost because they played the Devils, Faith because they played a good game.
And the Avs just unknowingly made that game against Minnesota. It could be a slingshot game. It could be huge.
Big time.
Yeah, it could have been just a normal division matchup. This one could be because Dallas is starting to pull away a little bit.
Yep.
Winnipeg is running away with the entire season.
Sure.
You need this head-to-head, and this is a slingshot to catching up with maybe Dallas.
Let's see if is Minnesota playing they are going to be, that's a second game from a back-to-back from them. So they're playing Utah the day before. And then that will also bring it down to now they would only have one game in hand on you instead of 2. So if say they beat Utah and then you beat them, you're tied in points, but they still would have the one game in hand on you. So no, I'm lying. So if they beat Utah, they're up to 74 points and you're at 70 right now, I believe. So the heck with the numbers.
Yeah.
Go win the game. You're below
game.
them. You're below them. Go win the game. That's what
you can't afford a loss at this point.
No, can't. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up. So we will be back tomorrow. We will probably be doing an episode after that game too, because it's a big one on Friday. So we'll have a weekend episode for you as well. But for now, thank you for tuning in to this one, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys later. And he just made it through another 24 hours. Sidney Crosby's that much closer to being a Colorado Avalanche.
He'll be on the third line.